series in the second BimaLab. So welcome to everyone who's here this evening, and really excited to engage in this conversation with Elias and Zilla. The goal for today is to talk about what it means to innovate for scale. And we're really eager to learn and hear from all of you, both from the regulatory side, but also from the insurtech space around what regulating and thinking about innovating for scale actually means. So thrilled to be here with all of you. And I will be handing it over to the team at FSD to lead this evening's session, both from sort of the framing what we're all here to speak about, but then also through your sort of questions and information that you want to understand as we think about innovation and what that actually means when it relates to scale. So a huge welcome to Zilla Malia and Elias Amandi, who will be joining us this evening. I will hand it to the two of them to do much better introductions than I could ever do. But I'm thrilled to be here with the two of you this evening.
Thank you very much, Emma, and we are also happy to be here. We can quickly start with introductions, and I'll introduce myself, and then Elias will also introduce himself, and then we'll get into innovating for scale. So my name is Zilla Malia, Manager Risk and Resilience. I have been managing the BimaLab project, and yeah, I'm really thrilled to actually get to interact with you. I have attended a few other sessions, and I'm always a participant and just listening in. And I must say that I've learned a lot, and I'm hoping that we will all learn today as well. So Elias, over to you.
Right. Good evening, guys. And I know, I don't know who doesn't know me here, but yeah, let me just introduce myself. So I'm Elias Omondi, or Elias Omondi, depending which school somebody went to. So some people call me Elias, some people call me Elias. I accept both. So I don't know which one I should call myself. And yeah, it's great to be amongst you guys, and we'll be discussing this particular topic, innovating for scale. Maybe as background, I'm a senior manager in charge of risk regulations, and definitely we are happy to be discussing this. And definitely let's also make this session a session that will engage, and at whichever point you could raise your hand to get clarification or comment. So let's have an open discussion. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Elias. So I'm hoping we can have a very interactive session, so feel free to ask any questions. If you need clarity on anything, please ask. I'll also be asking most of the questions. So I'm hoping that you will volunteer yourselves, but if you don't, I'll just be calling out names. So I hope that's okay with you. I'm going to quickly take you through FSD Africa and what we are and what we stand for, because I believe that's important, because what we stand for determines what scale means to us. And so FSD Africa is, sorry, I have two screens, so if you see me check in a different screen, just know that, yeah. So FSD Africa, about us, we work to reduce poverty by strengthening Africa's financial markets, and the insurance sector is part of the African financial markets, and that's the reason why we have this project today. FSD Africa was established in 2012, and we are supported by UK aid. Yeah, so technical issues. Our vision, we believe that healthy financial markets are foundation of a fair and thriving economy. And our mission as an organization that is based in Kenya, and we are supporting the whole of Africa. We support breakthrough ideas that we believe will transform Africa's financial markets. And this takes me to what scale means for us. So there are several challenges in the financial market, and I'm talking about not just the insurance sector, but also including the capital markets, the banking sector, fintech and all that. So there are several challenges, and looking at the real and social sector, the financial sector, both supply side and demand side. I'm not going to get into the detail of the challenges because there are quite a number, and we might spend quite a bit of time on that. And based on those challenges, we have structured our organization to cater for those challenges. So for example, we have the capital markets pillar, which generally deals with capital markets. So we have some projects with capital markets Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda. We basically with the West African Union as well, YMU. So quite a number of projects on that. Then we have the risk and resilience pillar, which is where the BimaLab project is under. So in the risk and resilience pillar, we're looking at insurance, innovative insurance products, and this accelerator is supporting that specifically. Specifically on resilience, we're also looking at agriculture, so climate-related projects. Like we have a pipeline of projects in agriculture, doing a bit of research on that, supporting MSMEs as well. And then within the digital economy pillar, which I would say sort of cuts across, it's looking at innovative ideas, not only in risk, for example, but also in capital markets, in the banking sector, credit. And then we have FSD Africa Investments, which is FSD Africa Investment is a subsidiary within FSD Africa, and it specifically invests in startups and innovative startups that can achieve scale. And I'll be discussing what scale means to us. And then we have the Green Finance Transaction Accelerator. This is pretty new. The main aim of the Green Finance Transaction Accelerator is to make sure that we have transactions which facilitate the changes that we would like to see in the African economies. The tools that we use, we have grants and returnable grants. We have investment capital. Investment capital is specifically for FSD Africa Investments. We have technical assistance. And the technical assistance is whereby, for example, we work with a regulator to change policies or develop new regulations to support the market. Then we have knowledge management and data. We're doing quite a myriad of research within Africa in capital markets, in risk and resilience, and basically all the other pillars as well. Then we have partnerships and networks. Partnerships and networks are very important. As we all know, you need the right partnership to actually achieve scale. And I'll get into details on that shortly. In regards to our outputs, the outputs we would like to see from our programs are innovative financial products and services, development of new policies, regulations, investment guidelines and master plans, market infrastructure development and increased capacity and collaboration between governments and the private sector. So using the different tools that I've mentioned, then we facilitate the achievement of these outputs. Then outcomes, we have the intermediate and the long-term outcomes. The intermediate outcomes are deeper and more sophisticated domestic capital markets, increased financing to green finance, insurance industry, healthcare, and digital economy, transactions, models, and investments adopted, replicated and scaled up, reduced currency and refinancing risk, improved transparency, pricing, and understanding of risk management strategies, and more effective policy and regulatory environment. And these intermediate outcomes would have a different meaning depending on the market and depending on the country. So that is taken into consideration as well. Then the long-term outcomes are, improved climate change adaptation and mitigation. In our new strategy, climate change is actually one of the most important aspects. And we would like to see at least most of our projects, at least 50% of our projects having the climate change and green finance angle. Then we have increased employment and income generation opportunities, increased resilience to financial shocks, increased access to finance for public and private sector, increased resilience of MSMEs and low-income populations, and improved access to high quality and affordable services. The reason I'm talking about this is for us to say that we've achieved scale, then we have, through our programs, we need to meet at least one or two of the outcomes that I've mentioned. So for example, we could have a project that is specifically increasing resilience for MSMEs in a certain country. We have a project in Egypt, for example, which specifically would lead to this outcome. Or we could have a project which is specifically on climate change, but that's what scale is for us as a development agency. And then in terms of our impact, we would like to see a sustainable future. And a sustainable future means that whatever we're doing today does not affect the future populations negatively. So it could be climate related. So for example, if the practices and the farming practices today are not sustainable, then that means we don't achieve a sustainable future. So under the sustainable future, we're looking at the environmental benefits delivered, economic opportunities created, and fragility and vulnerability addressed. So from our perspective as FSD Africa, this is what we would like to achieve, and this is what scale means for us. And I would like to move on to what scale means for you, and I would like to hear from each and every company, because I believe we all have different products, and scale could definitely have a different meaning for everyone. Could be similar, but since we all have different products, we all have different missions and visions for our companies, then it's very likely that scale has a different meaning for each of us. So I'm hoping I can get volunteers so I don't have to call out names. So what is scale for you as a company? Anyone? Kingsley? What does scale mean for you as a company? When you say you want to achieve scale, you're innovating for scale, what does that mean? Anyone who would like to try?
Well, my name is David from Orbit KE. I think let me hazard this. I think scale for us means vertical and horizontal market expansion, that is revenue growth, ability to explore into adjacencies, be it new customers, new product delivery methods, and geographies, a growth across geographies. That's what I take scale is, growth in all aspects of business development.
Thank you, David. Thank you. Anyone else would like to try? What does scale mean for you as a company?
Let me have a go.
Sure.
Scale to me would mean, innovating for scale would mean sort of like designing the outcomes of the startup in broader view of a larger market, but somehow like working on a smaller group to somehow confirm certain assumptions. And then in line with scaling, it's really an inflection point between when the costs that are used are significantly lower than the revenue. And the incremental revenue is not dependent on additional resources being deployed.
That's wow. Thanks, Ronald. That sounds like you had looked at my presentation before. So scale means different things. For some people, it means more capital. For some companies, it means more customers or consumers. For others, it means effectiveness. But it's also very important to consider economies of scale as well, because for you to achieve economies of scale, the growth to mass markets must have some sort of progressive cost reduction through the increased business volume. So if the production per unit is getting higher as you're reaching more people, then you're not achieving economies of scale. And the key question is, based on your definition of scale, do you think you can achieve this kind of scale? Are you able to reach more people and the cost of that service and being lower over time and as you reach more people? And I believe that's very important, because each company definitely wants to reach more consumers, because more consumers could also mean more capital. But if you're reaching more consumers and spending more, then that means you will likely get more capital, but you would have gotten more capital by spending less per unit or per service. So I'd like us to just hear what scale means, and I'd like us to listen to this. Please let me know if it's clear.
Is there sound? Seems or I'm muted.
Is it clear? Sorry.
We can't hear.
Oh, you cannot hear. Okay, I don't know what to do. Still, can you hear?
Now it's okay.
Okay.
Scale starts with the founder. If all the
Zilla, we can't hear.
Sorry?
We can't hear. Doesn't have sound.
You can't hear, sorry? Are you able to? You can't hear?
Yes, we can see, but we can't hear anything.
Okay. I will probably have to skip it. I'll share the link to the video and you can watch it later. Yeah. But let me try one last thing because I was extending my screen. Let's see if it works, and let me know if you can hear. Can you hear? Can you hear?
No.
Okay.
Still no sound.
That's fine. I'll share the link and you can listen to it later. So I'll go back to the presentation. I'm sorry about that technical hitch.
Okay, no worries.
Okay. Okay, so my next question is, why would you pursue scale? Why is it important for your company to pursue scale? And as similar to what scale is, I think it's different for different people. Some will pursue scale to reach more people, to provide services to as many low-income people and communities as possible, to tap into economies of scale, to become more sustainable, to have greater impact on low-income communities. And we all have reasons why we want to pursue scale as a company. And these reasons are different for each of us. And the different ways that we can model, that we can, pursue scale. So this is a model for taking an innovation to scale, for example. So you have an idea, you experiment, and I think most of us are at this stage where we have experimentation and early replication. So you innovate, refine if it's not working. If you do your different market research, you realize you need to improve and you improve. So we're basically in the first stages where there's experimentation, early replication as you keep on innovating and refining what you have. And then you take the best practice based on your experimentation and early replication and innovate it to scale. But is that the best model? I think there's also a better model that you can take for you to innovate at scale. So you have your idea, you experiment, and you have the experimentation stage, early replication, and you make changes as you need to. And then get the best practice, get to know what works. And the video that I was actually just presenting was talking about understanding your company, understanding what works for your company, and repeating what you've seen is working for your company. So if you realize that Google Ads is what gets you more consumers, then you invest in Google Ads and not consumer reps, for example, or customer reps. If you realize that having more people on the ground is what's working for you, then, and that's the best practice for your company and your kind of product, then you invest in that as well. So that's taking best practice. And then there's standardization and building infrastructure. So based on best practice, you standardize your processes, standardize your process of implementing and developing technical standards. You build your infrastructure. So building infrastructure that includes the tech aspect. Then you go into the wide-scale rollout and then innovation at scale. But is that the best model? So there are several keys to scale, and it's the standardization and infrastructure building based on your best practice. So once you know what's working for your company, you need to make sure that that's what you actually spend most of your money on, because that's what will actually lead you to achieving scale. And Elias will come in and talk specifically, based on his experience in the insurance sector. But there are things that work for most of the companies, not for all, but most of the companies. And building infrastructure based on your best practice is very, very important, because you learn from what you've been doing, you learn from what has worked. And over time, you actually get better at it and reach more people. Or if scale for you means, more capital or reaching more consumers or, more, higher profits, then that's what you should take up for you to achieve scale. So the first phase is based on what I've just shared, is conducting an internal situation assessment. So what works for your company? Determine your goals and objectives of alignment. I've discussed what FSD Africa is and what our goal is, what our mission is, what our vision is. That makes it very easy for us to align, because we know this is what scale means for us. Reaching more low-income people is scale. Enabling a sustainable future is scale for us. So you need to have your mission and vision in mind for you to determine what scale means for you specifically. Then assess current financial and strategic position, including ways in which affiliation can improve this position. So let's take, for example, for you to achieve this scale, you need to, affiliate with, work with several people. You need to get capital, or you need investors. So assessing that situation is very important, because you have a very specific goal. You have a mission, you have a vision, you know what exactly scale means for you and what you need to actually achieve scale. Then the second phase is to evaluate and select your desired scale model. So this is based on your best practice. So what has been working for your company? What you think as a company you will need to put in more in terms of, is it advertising, for example? Is that what you need for you to actually achieve scale? Then based on that, you evaluate and select the model that works for you. And then there's partnership, and we all know partnerships are very important. Partnerships are different, and it depends on what exactly you need based on your situation assessment. Then you know which partner, what kind of partner you need for your company to actually achieve scale. So for me, and based on my experience and based on the different projects that I worked with, I believe these are the main phases of achieving scale and determining what you need to do to achieve scale. And achieving scale is important, but what is most important is actually getting to know what scale means for you as a company, because it's different for different people. So, and for different companies as well. So that's what I had for today. And Elias will dive a bit deeper about innovating for scale, talking about innovations, and yeah, specifically on the insurance market. And yeah, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Yeah, thanks. So I'll stop presenting. Any questions? Okay, I think silence means no. So I'll hand over to you, Elias.
Right. Thanks, Zila, for that very insightful presentation. And I hope, guys, that we are in the room. I want us to be in the room to basically get this going. Just to let me get my slides on. It's a few minutes. Need to get it. So share screen. Right, so hope you can hear me clearly. If you can see my screen, let me know.
Yes, we can see, Elias.
Right, thanks. So Zila's kind of mentioned a couple of things that we need to be aware of in terms of innovating for scale. And I want just to dive deeper into this discussion, just to get us ready for what do we really mean by innovating for scale. And ideally, when I want to talk about this, the first thing that I usually tell innovators or insurtechs is that you need to create your own future. And why do I say so? I'm an innovator myself. I've done a couple of innovations or basically developed a number of products in the past. So for instance, if you've been in the insurance industry, one of the things that you will be able to know is that I did develop an electronic regulatory system that is currently being used at the IRA to collect all data from all companies, and that system basically analyzes data, I would say, automatically, and you basically get results out of that. So in terms of an innovator, the key thing is creating a future. And the best thing is that you guys are talking about, like, yes, we need to innovate in the insurance industry. Now, the first question that you need to ask yourself, where am I innovating? Which area is my innovation focused on? And in each and every scope, on each and every area, there are do and don'ts, and also there are successes and failures. Now, one of the key things that maybe I need to mention, particularly when it comes to innovation in the insurance sector, so many innovators have been going for the low-hanging fruits, and I'll be able to detail that and what I mean by that. Now, you'll get that most of the innovations are in the front office, and ideally, what we are trying to do is that, okay, fine, we know customers need to have an app to be able to get access and all that, and we want to provide to them a platform, and you would be competing on a very crowded space, because today, if you go to the internet and kind of just checked how many organizations, how many companies, how many startups have an app that kind of targets the front office, you don't even need to go far. You'll get it on your next step. Now, from the innovations in the front office, the first thing that also you need to look at is how then do I divide the front office? This is the client-facing side within an insurance business. So are we interested on growth as a strategy, or what will our partners be interested on? Are we only looking at innovation, and what form of innovation are we talking about? Are we looking at marketing? Are we looking at sales and distribution? Are we looking at channels? Are we looking at products? So all those components are in the front office. Now, you might be able, you might realize that in my slide, I've kind of captured this in 2 color shades. I'm not good in colors, so you need to tell me which colors are that. I would say that one is a bit reddish and the other one is orange. I don't know whether that's right, but you'll correct me or not, but I can see red and orange, or red and or yellow or something like that. So I'm not good in colors. Now, in the front office, you'll realize that there are 2 areas that we've shaded red. Now, those are some of the most important areas that maybe we might need to focus on, particularly in the Kenya insurance sector or in an African setting when you are an innovator. So how about innovation? How about channels? Now, most of the time we think about channels as these digital channels. But when you talk about channel, I'll be able to go further into this, because channels, if you talk about Africa, channels will be highly focused on trust. People want to trust something before they kind of use that particular thing. Now, the second thing that you need to think about is the middle office. This is whereby there is no innovation at all. I don't know which company or which insurtech has gone into kind of disrupting the middle office within the insurance sector. Very few or none. I wish you could tell me one. I've kind of observed the BimaLab 1 and BimaLab 2. No insurtech has courage, or I've not seen an insurtech that has the courage to disrupt the middle office. Now, this is where claims are. This is where insurance operations are. This is where those old technology that are being used by insurance companies are. This is where information is, or where data is. Now, why is it so difficult to disrupt the middle office? Or why are we not gaining any traction on the middle office? Middle office basically is the heart of what insurance is. Now, somebody might ask, why am I talking about this being the heart of the insurance industry? Now, people buy insurance to get their claims paid, right? Now, the only block for those particular claims being paid in time and promptly is in the middle office. Now, if today somebody told Kenyans or people in Africa that your claims will be paid as promptly as possible, would they even want to know how they pay their premiums? They might not even need an app to get their premium paid. They can even walk to that office and deliver their money to that company on hand. Because the key problem is whether you put your policy with an app or with anything else that is being provided, you'll always hit a roadblock on the middle office. That's an area that has never been disrupted. And maybe I'm wrong. Let me bring this to the room. Is anybody thinking about how they are going to disrupt the middle office? Or is there a solution that makes disrupting the middle office? Guys, let's discuss this.
Hi, Elias. Ronald here.
Yes.
I think as you went through the presentation, you kept mentioning claims. When you look at the presentation, I'm seeing claims in the back office. So does claims cut across?
Okay, now the back office is basically just reporting, right? But you need to know that when it comes to claims payment, it's more of an operational component, because once a claim comes to an insurance company, it's taken to the operations, they need to process and all that. Then the money will come from the back office, whereby now they'll say, okay, fine. So the heart of basically connecting the front and the back is in the center. So in terms of claims and benefits, like most of the time, if you look at, and let me then discuss on what I mean by claims and benefit in the back office. Each and every time, and if you look at the books of various insurance companies, they do report claims and benefits. Does it mean that those claims have been paid? No. They just report that we have these claims, some have not been paid, some are still pending for payment, and some have been paid. So the back office is more like just giving a dashboard of what assets are there, what revenues have come in terms of the finances, what capital you have, and what resources, human resources, that basically are running that particular back office. But in terms of actualization and how these particular systems operate is in the middle office.
Okay. So then in that case, then I think we're in that space because our proposition is to provide a software as a service platform that uses AI, machine learning, robotic process automation, and the customer engagement excellence. So really what we're creating for the automotive sector is a single file which captures, analyzes, and processes motor accident claims. Our first attempt into rolling this out will be based on the windscreen claims process, which is a lot easier in comparison to, say, the other type of claims. So I would take it here. The proposition really is to, what we're looking at is the costs that it's taking the insurance companies right now to run that particular exercise by themselves. And if we apply AI in that particular ecosystem and using maybe cloud computing, how much would they be able to save, thereby increasing their net profits?
Right. Now you've hit that right. Profitability is key, and definitely I'll be talking about innovating for scale, and kind of some of those terms will come in. But again, is on the customer's outlook. So again, there's a lot of money that is wasted in operations, just trying to verify a claim and all that. All that is cost. We call them claim expenses that surround a claim. But it's good to hear that there is something that we are thinking about that is going to disrupt the middle office. All right, let me go to the next slide. So then the key question that we then need to ask ourselves, then what is this innovation? Everyone talks about, like, we are innovators, and we want to disrupt the insurance industry. And I think I have the best solution that is going to basically create that disturbance in the market, right? So I think we are right, and I think we are also wrong. And this is the thing, is that most of the times you get that our innovations are already on things that are already existing. And most of the time you'll get that so many innovators even fear of talking about their innovations because they might be thinking that this is totally something that has never happened before, right? And that happens to any innovator. But I'll talk about also that in detail in this particular presentation. Now, innovations are just adaptations of something that is already well-known product. So ideally, you have to work on something that is already well-known, right? And out of that, you are creating something new that changes the way in which maybe these customers are going to view the product or the experience that they're going to get out of that particular product. So the key thing as we innovate around insurance, does it mean that we are going to completely come out with something that has never existed before? The only thing that you could do as an innovator is just improving the experience and the view of how people perceive your product or service. So there is totally nothing new that maybe we are going to experience. And that is something that Ronald has mentioned in terms of maybe using AI, machine learning, just to increase or improve the experience of both the demand side and the supply side when it comes to the insurance business. Now, I need to talk about then challenges, because this will be predominantly important when it comes to innovating for scale. One of the key things that as innovators we think about is that we are always experiencing a challenge. And I did divide the insurance office into 3 phases. And somebody has to select which phase or which area they want to predominantly focus on for them to create that change that will be able to cause a disruption in the market. Now, most of the time we get a challenge and we would want to have what we call an ordinary reacting cycle. So you get a challenge, you just kind of try and provide a response out of it. But for innovators, particularly within the insurance sector, there's need to have what we call a purposeful detour. So you need to understand what is the existing reality, what is on the ground, right? So I don't know whether this is something that you guys thought about when you are developing your innovations. Like if today I asked, what is the existing reality that you are trying to uncover? And out of that existing reality, you created new ideas and innovations and ecologies around it. So can you be able to kind of quickly mention the realities that you uncovered and how out of that particular reality, you created new innovations or new ideas to create a response out of that particular challenge? Now, most of the time we don't go through that particular process. And what happens is that you just respond for the purpose of responding. So you meet a client and they tell you that, look, I couldn't buy a product maybe through my phone or something like that. So quickly you say, okay, fine, we just need to put an app for that particular product. But maybe for that particular client, the issue is that it didn't need, or maybe the reason that he wanted to get an app was not because he could not have access. Maybe it was just an issue of time, right? So he needed maybe to maybe get an agent that would still get his cover renewed and get a reminder on his phone, maybe through any other means. It could be WhatsApp, it could be through Facebook, or it could be through TikTok or something like that. And maybe what basically happens is that you need to think about what about the issues of really addressing such kind of things, like, okay, fine, these are the existing realities. How do we respond to these existing realities? So maybe something that I want you guys to ask yourself, out of the solutions that you are developing, what existing realities are you uncovering, right? Could you be able to name them? And out of those existing realities, what are these new ideas that you've created? And if you couldn't be able to get that, then you need to kind of do this purposeful detour in terms of addressing some of the challenges that you think you are addressing. All right, let's think about some of the issues that we need to consider when innovating in the insurance industry. And this will kind of push me towards what do we really mean by innovating to scale? And kind of go to the existing realities of what we will need to hear. Now, the first thing is accessibility, and that is a very easy, I would say, issue to solve and to innovate around, right? Because you just need to get an app. You're basically trying to move away from the traditional channels to the alternative channels. But the key question is, are the traditional channels really bad? Right? Are we saying that that is what is inhibiting the industry from growth, or basically getting people to be covered? And I want to give an example on this. You get that even people that are still staying in the villages, they still get ways in which they could collect their money and channel it to one person. They don't really need even the M-Pesa and all that, but they still do it. They still get access to that particular problem that they want to solve, whereby they need to have a merry-go-round or a chama kind of a structure. So the question is traditional channels a challenge for accessibility? Okay, fine. Let's think about the alternative channels. Why are the alternative channels that we are developing not getting the right traction and outcompeting the traditional channels? And maybe the question that you need to ask yourself, what is this alternative channel that has made the insurance ecosystem become, in a way, not comfortable? So is there an alternative channel that have made the insurance industry not comfortable? There are so many companies that are offering their product through the alternative channels, right? But the number of people that are still applying for agencies and agents as agents are still existing. How many people still renew their motor business using the traditional channels? There's still quite a number. So the key issue is, what reality are we trying to solve when it comes to accessibility? What are these things that would make sure that these guys will say, okay, fine, I've completely moved, and this is the innovation that I want to use? Now, the key thing that you might need to think about are the limitations, because be it traditional channels, be it an alternative channel, all of them have limitations. And what limitations will you be trying to solve by your innovation when it comes to the innovation that is going to solve the issue of accessibility? The second component is credibility, and with credibility then comes trust. Now, this kind of fits in the second level of office, or of the insurance office, because you want customers to be aware of the insurance products. We are creating insurance products. At the same time, there'll be disputes that will always arise, right? In terms of sales, somebody might not be happy based on the product that you sold because maybe didn't get the right information, and that kind of loses credibility with what he was purchasing. Then thereafter, there are a lot of frictions when it comes to claims. So the claims disputes tend to arise. Assume that credibility was something that was very smooth and frictionless, and somebody gets to clearly understand the product, somebody gets to clearly understand what he needs to pay, and how somebody gets clearly to understand what will be paid to him, or basically receives his claims on time. Will this person be worried on how he accesses the product, on how he purchases that particular product? He won't be worried because trust is developed through credible processes. Then we think about the business model, right? So what are the customer needs? Customer needs will change and will vary based on the demographies, the segmentation, and all these you will be able to see how then this interacts with what we term as innovating to scale. So you just follow me. How much is the tech integration within the ecosystem that you're developing? How much is, how are you putting the channel management? So how the channel managed? Does the business model allow for various interactions with different channels? Then Ronald mentioned something on profitability, right? You always want a profitable business model. So that will come from the internal side of an institution or of an insurtech or of an insurance company. Then there are other factors that also need to think about externally when you're innovating. The market environment, the economic environment, right? There are some products that will be highly kind of attracted to what the economic situation is at the moment. So for instance, I don't know what will be the traction of, say, the micro products, given that now we've gone into the political season, and ideally somebody will say, but I can get handouts, right? So I might not need some of protection, because in a way there'll be money flowing all through, right? There's issues of competition that always will arise. And this is what maybe an insurtech will be thinking about. If I develop my innovation, tomorrow somebody might be able to replicate it. So I need to not go out very fast. I need to be aware that somebody might copy. I usually say for an innovation or an innovator that is worried of somebody copying his stuff, then you need to move out of innovation because competition is rife. You'll always, people will always want to do something that you've done. And again, there are those people that we term, they always just focus on what is new in the market. They do a lot of benchmarking, and they might even do that quicker. And I'll kind of zero into what makes you not to become an easy prey for competitors in this particular presentation. And I would also just mention that there are a couple of companies that you'll be able to see that a company is trying to imitate or kind of develop a product similar to what another company is doing. And there is no legal ground of basically going and say, okay, fine, this particular company is just copying our thing. And because mostly when you talk about financial products, it's very difficult to kind of say that I've developed this and no one should be able to do the same way we're doing it. The only way for competition is you becoming credible and developing trust on your ecosystem, so that your customers will always stick with you. Regulatory environment is also very, very important, right? And I'll be able to mention how this can inhibit scale or can also promote scale when it comes to understanding a regulatory environment. Then also you need to understand the technology environment. There's a lot of technological revolution, and most of the time you might be using an old technology and focusing on an old technology, but maybe things have changed. So how then do you keep abreast with the new technologies that are coming around, and based on your solution, are you always pushing them towards that technology? And also the technological risks you need also to be aware of, issues that might expose your clients and also your systems to various risks that come out of technology. The key thing is customer demands, and this is something that for any innovator, he always have to get his ear on the ground, because needs will always be altering. So what are these altered needs that will be much different from what maybe as your competitor gets to the level of what you are providing to your clients, you've gone to the next level. So they'll be keeping what we call a chess game on you. So you need to alter the needs that you're addressing to your customers over time. The service experience is another thing. Even if your product or your solution is copied, what kind of service? Because service will be too much personalized at that particular level, whereby somebody wouldn't be able to say, okay, fine, I will be able to copy the service experience or the customer experience that people will be getting. And then the behavior preferences. So behavioral analytics is very important. You should be able to know how your future customer will be looking like, right? So maybe you are dealing with the customer of the yesterday, then your competitor comes with a feature for the customer for your customer for tomorrow. Then you realize that, wow, the business have shifted. So the InsurTech should focus more closely on customer needs, provide what we call differentiated products and services, and basically expand coverage. That is something that will be able to make you tick as an innovator. Any comment here before I go to the next slide? Any question? All right, so maybe if I may ask, and I'll do this randomly. I don't know whether I need to start with the insurance for all, right? Maybe what issues did you consider? I think this is for John Paul, when you are developing your innovation.
Yeah, so I think, hey, hi everyone, this is John Paul. I think we considered a myriad of issues. And the first one was actually the customer demands. I think that's where we started from. So we set out to really get to understand what the customer needed and where the customer felt that there were gaps in terms of how he was managing his risks and finances. So that's so we did that using a lot of market research, and I think we established for a fact that the customer felt that he or she needed a better way to access medical care, and he needed a more affordable way to have this done. So that was our key, the key problem that we wanted to solve from the word go. While we also were forced to look at other things. So you have this beautiful product that maybe addresses the need, but how are you going to get it to the client? So accessibility in terms of the channels we were going to use was also a key consideration. And I like what you said. For us, we've found that over time, the traditional channels, which involve face-to-face meetings with the client, have proven to be more effective, and as opposed to other channels that we tried to use at first, which included apps and technology to push the product here. Of course, credibility is key. I think you may have a perfect product. You might even sell it at a good price, but you'll still have to scale that issue of trust. For new companies like the ones represented here, it's a very uphill task because no one has heard of you before. No one has ever experienced your service or product before. So these are some of the things that we had to innovate around and see how best we could get clients to test and see and like us, and then continue to buy our products and to renew our policies. Yeah, so those are just, I think those are the three key areas that I would say we really took time to look at.
Right. Thanks, John. But something John Paul is mentioning, and I know, John Paul, you are becoming a bit harsh to some of us who are basically doing alternative channels in the lab. Like you're telling us that your traditional channel is more trusted. Now, there's something that I want to kind of bring up in that. Now, if you look at the Kenyan ecosystem and particularly African ecosystem, we kind of think about, for you to trust something, you have to see the person behind it, right? Because you think that if you have seen him, you would be able to gauge, is this guy a thug or is this guy a good person, right? There's a lot of face value that come with, particularly for those guys at the lowest of the pyramid. If you go and tell them that, look, there's an app here and I want you to just dial some things and you'll get a product, they'll kind of fear that from that particular. They'll say like, okay, these people from Nairobi, in fact, they usually say that these people from Nairobi have come up with the phones to get money away and run away, right? So there are various ways, and ideally, you can channel, or you can basically use community champions, the people that are already known to them in that particular village. So in that case, you'll kind of now do a bundle of accessibility, whereby a community champion that is well known is using a digital platform to onboard these particular guys, because they'll know in case this person runs away, we'll go and hijack their 4 cows and or maybe 4 chicken or something like that, depending on which community this particular person is coming from. There are some animals that relate to particular area. So that is something that is very, very important. And thanks, John Paul, for those comments. I need to pick on this company, Karope.
Yeah, so after you mentioned the chicken thing, I thought it was likely coming to us anyway. So for Karope, I think both of our products fit in very well into the spectrum you have just described, and I think let me talk about BimaShule. So BimaShule, how it came to be is we identified a particular need with the schools that we work with. And so this we already, accessibility was kind of factored in because we are dealing with the schools and therefore to the parents directly through the schools. So let me just give a brief summary of the product so that people also can understand. So BimaShule is health insurance for students, and we work with schools we have the premiums embedded in the school fees, and then the students are covered during that term when they're in school. So as you can see, inclusion was a huge factor because the problem we identified was that most of our clients schools who are in rural areas, they didn't have insurance. And therefore inclusion in that sense was very strongly factored in. And then credibility came in where you see we work with the schools already in terms of the other products that we provide, that is credit and school management systems. So that way, even sales, we had the trust of these institutions, and therefore it was very easy. It's easy to replicate that trust in this product that we are proposing. And then the customer needs and tech integration fits in very easily into our model. Even the channels of distribution and management of the product and monitoring of all of this, because the school has the platform, the parent has access UI that gives him access, and even the hospital and also the underwriter. So that way, the monitoring is very easily taken care of, and even the technological risks are factored in the tech development. Then competition for us, it was not a challenge so much because, as you mentioned, middle management has not been tapped into by many innovators, especially in the education sector. And that is the space that we are in, because we are kind of enhancing operational efficiency and guaranteeing efficiency in that sense. So that way, competition was not a very huge thing for us. And finally, just to highlight, to stamp it in, our customer demand was really taken into consideration, because you see, we are creating a solution that we have seen people face, and we saw this even before we did the market survey, and even after doing it, we continue to see it as we interact with the schools daily in our other products. So yeah, so thank you very much for kind of summarizing almost whole journey that we went through and are still going through as a company.
Yeah, thanks, Shama. You did mention that competition is not that high. Can I tell you your competition?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
All right. So, and this might be a bit crude. You know, for those students that most of the time fall sick, and their parents have an issue like, okay, your son goes to school for 1 week, then the next thing, you are called that the guy is sick. Do you know that some of those parents seek traditional medical doctors? Okay, do you know that those guys still seek for pastors? I'm not saying it's wrong. They could seek anything, but your competition from the market environment, you need to know how many parents, and maybe you can do your survey. You'll realize that if your son falls sick in school, they'll tell you that we have they call them spiritual guys, who we take this son to with chicken. They go with a white and black chicken for the sons to be prayed. So if you tell this guy that you need him to pay for his sons to be taken to hospital, but I have other means whereby the claim is paid immediately. Yeah. So there are various ways in which, and maybe that also applies to John Paul. There was a survey that was done in a slum here in Nairobi, and they realized that those people, instead of going to hospital, they are going to get medication from the traditional medicine men in that particular slum. So that became a very big competition in terms of basically providing healthcare for that community that was in that particular slum. So some of the competition, you might not see that directly, and that competition might inhibit scale in a way, right? Yeah. So maybe I get the last person, Motishua, if they're in the room, before I proceed to the next slide. I know I've mentioned 3 companies, so don't, for the guys that have not called upon, don't think that I will not be calling your names. So Motishua?
He's not.
Is Motishua in the room? Marianne?
No.
Okay, so maybe they're scaling. Do we have emerging markets? You are the researchers, right? So tell us on your journey, Luis. And maybe you need to tell us whether do these which doctors compete with the likes of JP and Shama.
Yeah, thanks, Elias. Yeah, which doctors do exist? I think we encounter them in our research on a day-to-day basis. Like right now, my team is in Busia, bordering Uganda, and they told me they encounter some of those coping mechanisms, as we call them. Not that I'm have anything against Busia people, but yeah, it just came up. Yeah. So to answer your question, Elias, what we really considered when we started off emerging markets is, for us, we were obsessed with barriers to insurance uptake. I think that was our biggest obsession. Like, why are people not taking insurance? And remember, I was coming up I was coming off from micro insurance, and I had done some bit of interaction with these people, but I was really obsessed with why do people do not take insurance. So we structured our business around investigating these barriers at every level. So at the from the consumer education level, at the product level, at the process level, at reputational, reputational or perception level. And I think this is an area where we've really done research, as you're saying, and then would now develop improved products with our customers. So yeah, I would say for us it has been barriers, and how we go that we don't have the one thing that we do, like we don't have like one product that we sell or one process that we do or one distribution channel. Like we don't have like maybe just schools or this platform, etc. So for us, how we're approaching this whole innovation journey is by partnering with the ambitious organizations. So this could be like this organization, we come up with a question, like right now we are doing something in the slums. So we ask ourselves, how might we ensure that the slum people, we know the challenges they are facing, how might we ensure the slum people? Or how might we ensure farmers in Bungoma, like we are currently doing? So we come up with these very ambitious projects, and then we bring our heads together and try to bring solutions. We do not want to anticipate what the problem might be or what the solution might be upfront. That's why I keep mentioning that we actually do not have tech. It's only after 1 year in business that you're not thinking maybe we need technology. But we've never really put technology to be the solution before we even know what the client wants. And we don't, I always say we have one way of solving the solution. Like for every project we've engaged in, the solution somehow differs from the other, whether it's in the product, whether it's in the process. So we always have different solutions for customized for whatever segment you're working with. Yes. So
now you mentioned something important. Okay, a bit necessary. How are you dealing with the rain chasers and rainmakers in Bungoma when you are dealing with agriculture insurance?
well, it's a tricky thing. Well, you don't want to get into that space. You don't want to start saying our insurance is better than that space, because then people won't take you lightly. So you just focus on how good your thing is, because if you start questioning people's beliefs and people's emotions very early on, you'll be chased away. So you want to kind of blend in and gradually face the traditional way out and bring the new stuff out. But you can't just come and say you're the new guy from Nairobi, witchcraft is bad. People will chase you away. Yeah. So
now you mentioned these traditional mechanisms, and one of the key things that we've been trying to think about, how about formalizing them? Like if somebody, because there's still some form of insurance, you've talked about coping mechanisms. They do cope with some certain structures. How do you formalize that, and how do you blend your products? How are you looking to blending your products around? Because most of the time, the biggest inhibitor of scale is basically trying to completely change what they do in terms of what they term as insurance.
Yeah. So for example, like in the slums, you're working in Mathare, Mukuru, and Huruma. They have these chamas, and these chamas have welfare. And literally welfare is like all the insurance products, quote unquote, the coping mechanism. So if somebody wants an emergency loan, that's what they get. Somebody gets sick, that's what they go and get some, or the chama people contribute towards your health, towards your funeral. If your business burns down, they still go through chama hoping for contribution. So we're telling them, look, if 10 of you contribute 100 shillings, that's 1,000 bob. Maybe it may not be enough to bring this guy back, whether it's business or health. But if you pay premium of 1,000 bob, then the benefits you're getting are in terms of times 10 or even times 100. It's something like funeral. So you're trying to show them, like, if you save this money with whether it's with your treasurer, most of them they don't even bank. They give the wealthiest guy in the area to basically boost his business, and then when something happens, they recover the money. This guy is making more money. So the same amount of savings, we try to show them how much they can make if they put that into insurance. But the biggest challenge has been, well, if we put money with you and nothing happens, we never get something back, which is a big challenge. If they put money with the saving guy, they know they definitely get their money back at some point, because they can calculate. We put in 100,000 or even 20,000, we spend this much, this remains, we divide amongst ourselves. So you're having to add things like cashback to them and bonuses, just to show that usability of insurance. But yeah, it's a big challenge. I would say it's actually the biggest challenge. It's actually the biggest competitor. Apathy, number one, apathy, not doing anything, and number two, the coping mechanisms that already exist. But we try now to, as you're saying, formalize them. We haven't reached formalizing witch doctors and stuff, but at least we're formalizing from a welfare perspective, trying to show them that this welfare could actually benefit you more if you position it as insurance, as opposed to just a saving scheme.
Right. So quite a number of interesting views there. So let me get to the next slide. And most of us term ourselves as new entrants, and the best name we call ourselves is like, okay, guys, we are the innovators. And most of the time, what I've realized, that innovators are often the frustrated guys of the ex, and most of the time, most of the guys that are here are mostly the ex-employees of incumbents, right? So something did not go right. Then with little nothing to lose, you decide, okay, let's get into the market. That's the best, by the way, because you have a challenge that you want to solve. In fact, most of the insurtechs or companies have done well are basically managed by ex-employees of an incumbent company that was doing or was offering that particular product. Now, the second thing that maybe we might need to explore is that, okay, fine, I don't know whether anybody takes all of us in this lab as a threat, right? So just know that no one is threatened of what you're doing. And because one of the key things that they know is that you are looking into going into the new markets. Now, the biggest challenge that I get from insurtechs, they don't go to the new market. In fact, they try and outcompete the incumbents on the markets that those incumbents have been doing for the last couple of years, right? So you get that you cannot scale, you cannot grow to scale, because if you are not going for a new market, whereby the incumbents will not see you as a threat, and you are trying to outcompete the same market that these guys have been doing for the last number of years, you'll always not be able to scale. So the key question is, and this is something that we need to ask ourselves, right? Are these innovations that we are currently working on, will they find new customers? Will they find new markets? And most of the time, when you're talking about new markets and new customers, the key thing is that they are always small and insignificant. And that might be now and even in future, because you might not be able to get everything, like you move from, say, 100 customers to 1 million customers. The only thing is that as you grow and as you create what we call credibility from that small new market, the already existing clients from these other incumbents will kind of now think that, okay, fine, there's a better model. What am I doing with this incumbent? Yet I've heard that there's a company that your claim is processed in 24 hours. And you see, you are processing a claim of 24 hours of a very niche, unique product. So the only way you start eating and making inroads to the incumbents market is by now there's that particular shift. So you start with what we call very small products that are insignificant, but as time goes by, the already well established clients will start thinking about, why can't we try to use this particular product? I want to give an example in this. I don't know whether some of you are aware of computer processing company called Intel. I know maybe even your computer right now, if you check on it, you realize it's either Intel Core i7 or Intel i5, or maybe you're using a Celeron processor. Now, somebody might ask, why is it that there's an Intel, there's Celeron? And I want to give you an example of a company called Cyrix and AMD. Now, AMD and Cyrix were computer processing companies, and they came into the market to develop processors that were of low value. So they were very cheap processors for cheap computers, right? Now, if you compare, if you wanted to buy an i7, an Intel i7 computer, it is extremely expensive, right? But if you want to buy a Celeron, it's much cheaper because it's a single processor kind of a computer. Now, when Intel realized that AMD and Cyrix were coming with cheaper processors, they created a company called Celeron to compete for that new market. So you might realize that for an incumbent, that incumbent reacted because they reacted, look, we might lose, because the thing is that if you start with customers at a very low level, these customers are going to become wealthy as time goes by. And the other customers that were in that wealthy level will realize that these other companies offering better services than the incumbents. Why can't we all transfer? And that's what happened. Now compare that with the Toyota and the Ford brand of vehicles. Now people used to think about Toyota as a very cheap vehicle. By the way, Toyota is the only vehicle that you can get a vehicle brand starting from A to Z. Yeah, because you'll start with Toyota's Alpha to Toyota Zeta or something like that. They have all, they're basically within the all alphabets, right? Now, Toyota, when they went to the US market, they went to that market with very low value kind of vehicles. Well, they took these small brands of vehicles. But Ford were not concerned because Ford was producing a very high caliber kind of a vehicle. And they saw that, okay, fine, these are new entrant. They're basically going for the lower end kind of customers. But over time, Toyota started producing high value vehicles, right? And when Ford realized, they realized that even the niche that they were in, because they thought that these guys were only coming for new customers and new markets, they had even grown to those high valued vehicles. So for instance, nowadays you can be able to get the likes of Toyota, Lexus and all that, very high valued vehicles, which were not there before. Toyota was only doing the small vehicles. And now if you maybe go to the US market, you realize, okay, fine, there are higher valued vehicle Toyotas that are currently being used, other than the Ford and the kind of the General Motors that were producing high value vehicles. And that's why I don't know whether you've seen a low value vehicle from Ford in Africa or something like that. But yeah, that's how you also need to think about innovations. And they start small, but as time goes by, you could basically grow your innovation to eat into the rightful markets. The failure comes in when you want to eat into the existing market using your low budget and using your low experience to try and fight off the incumbents. That is where now scale becomes very difficult for an innovator or maybe an insurtech or a startup. So maybe let me talk about the scaling principles, and these are some of the factors that will enable you either to scale or to fail, right? The first point that we need all to be aware is we need to discover the pain points and solve those pain points that have not been met before. Now, the key question that you need to ask yourself, out of your innovation, are we solving a need that has never been met before? Or you are thinking that these particular incumbents are not doing something right, and to you, you think that you can do it better than them. Now, the issue is that incumbents will always fight that out because they have the resources, they have the structures, they have the systems. They'll always find their way out. It's just like trying to carry water in a sack. It will always come out. So the thing is that you need to discover who are these new customers, right? Who are these? Which is this new market that no one has ever thought about? And I want to target this market. And as I grow my innovation, then I can slowly now bring what we call sustaining innovations that will attract already the customers that these particular incubators have to grow my space and to grow my innovation. So one principle to scale is that you have a very unique proposition that is not there and is not currently being addressed in any way by the existing companies. The second thing is seeing and designing for the bigger picture. So how is your innovation fitting into the bigger picture? And the bigger picture here is that, one, so many people are still exposed in Africa, right? So are you only just going for, so for instance, if somebody is going into a space whereby the cover is taken more of like a tax or a license, but you're not going for it for the purposes of maybe generating a protection or reducing the protection gap. So your design should be for the bigger picture. Don't look at it on very small way or maybe in a very minute way, but it has to really fit the bigger picture of what is currently affecting or the challenges are currently in the market. The third thing for scale is partnerships. They have to be strategic, right? Now, the question is that some of us are like, no, I don't want to start discussing some of this because somebody might take this and run away with it. Now, the key thing is that if it's totally a new niche and a completely new way of customers, even that particular person that will be interested there'll be very few people that will be interested to go there because it will still be quite small and insignificant for any other person to see value out of basically getting value out of what you are proposing. So strategic partnership is key because out of this, you just want to maybe quickly make the process work and even get to new markets. So your partnerships should be, is this particular partnership taking me to a new market? Is this particular partnership taking me to new customers? And how do I then push that much quickly? Another thing is talent and learning, right? I don't know whether you're investing in talent because as you produce your innovation, we talked about issues changing over time, the ecosystem changing over time. So are you growing the talent within your organization, right? Or basically, are you also learning as a founder for the purposes of ensuring that as things change within the market, you have the right balance of talent and providing the right learnings to the people that are working with you. The fifth thing is basically you need to engage in an open way with the regulator. And I'll speak into this because yeah, I've been a regulator before, and when an innovator approaches you and this innovator wants to scale, he will try and hide as much as possible. There are some things that might not work as per the regulations or something like that. But because you know that that is not right, you tend to hide that. So you don't engage and openly bring this out to the regulator. Then as your product goes by and you've already scaled to a particular level, then the regulator discovers that. Then he calls you back and tells you, no, you have to stop this. So some of the innovations have been stopped because of the engagement, because you try to hide some of the things that might have necessarily been discussed, and ensured that those particular components were addressed before the push for scale was to be achieved. Another important thing is confidence to identify and ensure that you properly manage innovation risks. Risk management is quite key, because most of the time you might want to scale, you scale to a particular level, then what we call conduct risk comes into play, right? You realize that complaints start coming, the software or the infrastructure that you're using cannot really be able to uphold or engage or take care of all those particular persons that you've brought on board. So how then do you continually identify and ensure that those risks are properly managed? So there should be a team or a process that kind of gives you that assurance that, look, we are properly identifying some of these particular risks that would arise out of my innovation, and we are properly managing them. The last thing, and these I've put it deliberately at the end, because some of us think scale is all about funding. So you'll get that a company gets Series A and gets Series B and gets all that, and we are all over media that we are getting the right funds. But if you go down to the ground and ask them how many people are insured, is nil, or there are very few. Because one, you are not maybe addressing some of the needs that are necessary. So funding is good for scaling, but what I would say is a natural scaling parameter, or kind of provides an organic scale to an institution, is basically addressing the needs. Because that means that as you address the needs, more people will come to get that particular solution. And that's why you'll be able to see that discovering pain points is one, and funding becomes the last. Maybe I want to stop at that and basically come back to the room. And maybe this one I'll request for. Is it Optips, or it's okay? Which companies are? I can't remember all the names. What are the Optimis?
Orbit KE
Yes,
or
but
Optimis?
Yeah, there are two. There's Orbit and there's Optimis. So I'll start with the Orbit KE. What principle have you adopted for scale?
Okay, thank you. I think we are looking at our ability to cut an impact. Impact in the sense that after all is said and done, after all the business as usual engagements are done, we are capable of meeting the needs of the gap that remains, the unincluded or the unserved and underserved. So of course, you know, following up on the discussion, we cannot, of course, completely gainsay the perceived role of witchcraft or religion. You know, it's in the belief systems of Africa, and maybe in the cultural retrogression or redundancy that may exist. But for us, we feel like we need to place an API somewhere, and you cannot place an API with a witch doctor, because you know our ancestors were not very well known for using technology, maybe throwing a spear and you know, or you know, making the biggest bonfire, which was fun, but that's not the space maybe we wished to formalize. We understand that yes, that might play a role into how we think maybe someone will acquire a motor vehicle, because we are chiefly in the motor vehicle industry. And what we are doing is rapid digitized valuation and assessments, and enabling us sit at the junction where the customer builds trust with the insurer or financier, because now we're talking about risk valuations, and we are giving an advisory, if you may see so, for them to expedite their policies, the cover, and make it the correct one at that, and be able to, probably have record time claim settlement, because now there is an accuracy that comes with the immutable way that you deliver digitized information, that the moral hazard is reduced, because now the capture and transmission of data is a digital platform that no one out there can, get into and try to put input some fraudulent activity. So our principle, if I'm getting, the concept right, is that we are delivering an API that allows, as you said, the front office on a collaborative platform, the front office of the carrier. We engage with them in order for them to connect with the back office, go to the middle on operations, and that checks into finance, human resource, and all these other activities that bring the outcome of rapid claim settlement, accurate ones, where there is increased trust and deepening of insurance, and cover, and expanding the cover base, the customer base with cover. And then on that, partnering and collaborating in our agenda, we have a strong onboarding and loyalty program that we've thought to incorporate, and that's a latest iteration we are having to that we are capable of, in the day in the life activities of someone who owns a motor vehicle or plans to own a motor vehicle. We're in that space where we are embedded with upsells and cross sells that they can be able to get, for example. And I've noticed that this exists across the ecosystem, even amongst us cohorts, that there is an intent sort of to connect car owners or motor vehicle owners to all the other services, be it petrol stations, be it garages, linkage them to towing and all that. Yes, we have that too, but we feel that our value proposition is stronger based on our last mile, reach. Last mile reach means we conveniently get to the customer at their point of need, rather than let them come in to look for services at a central point. And then, of course, we have a standardized model that allows for us to deliver a product that over time we hope the industry can adopt. Also, we have, give or take, upwards of 120, 130, say, valuers and assessors. That's our direct competition. And those ones that are more, the more competitive ones, the large ones, maybe there are 5 to 10. And all of them have a different way, a different approach, so to speak, of bringing in valuation and assessment reports. That's risk advisory. And we feel our product stands in the good, at the junction, to bring a standardization model that we tangoing with our loyalty program can be able to put a good perspective on how customers respond and how they are attended to according to their needs and preferences at their most important touch points. I don't know if I've gone. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So maybe let me ask you this, and this it's two. I'm giving you two choices. So assume that I want to give you, I would say, 1 million customers.
Yes.
Or I give you 100 million in terms of grant. Which one would you go for? 1 million customers or a million? Which one would you go for?
1 million customers any time of day, because that's
Why?
now. Yes, because that now enables us to engage at our level, because we're embedded with the customer. Remember, our focus is to have a customer who's satisfied and delighted with the service. And we realize that the gap that there is that there is an inherent conflict that has existed over time between the customer and the carrier, the insurance carrier. Why? Because we don't trust that you are not going to embellish your claims, or we don't trust that you, realizing your bottom line isn't working for you, aren't going to deny me my hard-earned, the amount of money I put in as premium for my policy. So if we are working with a customer, we're talking about penetration, we are talking about cover, we're talking about inclusion, then we are talking at a higher scale, the industry's top line and bottom line. With that, there is an understanding that insurance and financing is a social good. And it's good because it enables communities, get assets and have what others have called asset-based community development, where communities grow in finances and well-being, and insurance becomes a protection rather than a necessary evil. That someone has got to buy third party so the NTSA and the traffic police don't get on your back. Now it will be need-based and demand-led, and based on an understanding that technology is bringing it to satisfy the customer experience first. So for us, the modus operandi is we have to have a satisfied customer for any business to move forward.
Great. Right. The next company that I mentioned. So any reaction before we move to the next slide?
Optimism are not on the call, Elias.
Where are they? They are scaling.
Yeah, I think they are.
All right. So who else is the call? Taki?
Ronald, Ajali.
Yes, Ajali AI. Ajali.
Yeah, I have a question which has been somewhat answered by your current slide, so I put my hand down. But mine was
please ask it. We still want to answer it.
All right, fantastic. In line with the underwriter, you'd find that innovative products still need to follow the guidelines of the sector. From experience, what's the can I say path of least resistance when it comes to getting somebody an insurance company to underwrite a new product? Of course, there's the element, it's untested, there's risks that come with it. You cannot tell the claims ratio. So I'm struggling between, yes, there's a need to innovate, but if it's not backed by an insurance company, it might not see the light of day.
Yeah, that's a challenge generally, and that's why we were looking at different approaches to take into consideration of allowing an innovator to kind of break the middle office barrier, because that's why you need an insurance company basically to pay claims and all that, right? So there are ways that I've been thinking about on how we could resolve this. So for instance, assume that you want to offer an end-to-end solution. Does it mean that you'll need a pot of funds? You still go into partnership with an insurance company. Look, guys, we have this. There are claims that will be coming, but out of my pot of funds, I'll be paying them immediately. But now it will be on a reimbursement basis, right? Before maybe we get some of these particular laws going through. Such a model could work, and that model will highly engage. You get a very strong partner that agrees that, look, for any claim that you'll be paying out of the platform that you've created. So for instance, assume that you've developed a claim platform whereby you are telling anybody that in case there's a claim that you have with an insurance company, you go and log it into that particular platform. Now, in that platform, you'll do a quick claim assessment and all that. Because you've gone into partnership with a number of insurers, then you basically meet that particular claim as soon as possible. Then all these other things work whereby now through your particular application, there's that reimbursement that comes on that particular process. Now that will require partnerships, but assume that we get this sandbox going, and that is something that we are working on to kind of reduce that friction so that it will be you operating from front office to the back office without any interaction. It becomes a very easy way of pushing that through. Yeah, so there are various ways of looking at that, but you can come up with an avenue whereby you create a fund that sits at the middle office for taking care of these particular claims. Then you get it on a reimbursement basis over time.
Okay. I mean, that's very interesting. Very interesting. Okay. Fine. Thanks a lot. Yeah.
Right. Any other comment from Ajali AI before we move on? Time is really rushing. I don't know where this time is going.
No, I think I'm good to go. Thank you.
Good. So let me go to this slide here. I don't know which song you remember, and you could say that's a one-hit wonder. Who can give me a song that was done by a musician and it was a one-hit wonder?
I don't know about the age group in this particular cohort.
We can use for old people like us.
There was were the guys of Ice Baby. You remember that? What are they called? Milli Vanilli or something?
Yes.
Yeah.
I know these youngsters cannot understand that song, but that was a one-hit wonder. Who are these recent? Which one?
I'm saying I also didn't know Ronald can sing.
We have musicians in the room. Even me, you could try me. Can sing. Anyway, so for the recent guys, recent musicians, one-hit wonder.
Kwangwaru.
Which song is that?
If you don't know it, then it's not a hit.
Now you are taking us.
Diamond.
All right. So ideally, and this is what I'm trying to bring out. You can become a one-hit wonder in the insurance sector, right? And that is what kills scaling. Now, you need to do what we call a sustaining innovation, right? So as you focus into scaling and basically putting a lot of commitment and focus on your current operating model, you need to think about the continuous innovation piece because there are various ways in which the ideas are changing, the experiments are changing. You need to continually challenge your status quo. You need to continually think and act in new ways of thinking. And this has happened to so many organizations. You chase scale on one line of your current operating model. By the time you've achieved scale, the customers are already shifted to a new way of doing things and the new ideas that have come up. So scaling sometime requires a very good balancing act to continually innovate. So as you scale, you need to think about how are the customers' dynamics or demographics, have they changed? So maybe my idea was good for maybe the last 3 months. What other things should I be able to bring in place just to ensure that we kind of ensure that we demonstrate the predictability of exploring those uncertain events that will happen tomorrow. So it's very, very important for all of us to think about scale now on the current model that we have, but think about what other things will change tomorrow. So it is just like you are in a roller coaster. That time that it's smooth, that time that it's not really, really interesting, and you keep on challenging yourself. So that pressure has to be there. So let's not talk about only scaling. Also think about continuous innovation. Maybe just to end, because time is not on our side. InsurTech, really, all of us required to transform from mostly we talk about policy-led industry, and most of the time, if you get an InsurTech complaining, you'll always say that, oh no, it's because of policies. This policy is not allowing me to do this. I think the government is not allowing us to do this. I think the regulator is not allowing us to do this. So if you change that thing to basically placing the customer at the heart of everything that you do, then let me tell you, the innovator or the regulator will not have anything to do. You'll have so many customers that they'll have to make a policy to support what you are doing. So we need to look at new ways of doing our business, and this is by implementing new approaches that will transform the way we are doing business. And in here, what you need to bring into consideration is that continuous innovation, as we are always trying to scale your innovations. The second component is basically moving beyond your comfort zone. And this happens once you've come up with a very good innovation. Most innovators go to the comfort zone, right? And then you know what happens is that, okay, it's time to eat and enjoy the sweat, right? And what happens at that particular level, the customer-centric architecture changes over time. And there are so many competitors that are trying to replicate what you are doing. By the time that these guys have caught up with you, it will be too late. So innovations can take you to a comfort zone, and I'm usually quite concerned with innovators. We get comfortable so easily once we get our things going to scale and people talking about us, and we don't kind of continually, in a way, challenge the status quo of what we've done in the past. It requires what I'll say leadership. So it requires some form of urgency and rapidness, right? So if there is something that you need to do, innovation never waits. I know I've been working with a number of innovators, and you'll get this guy talking about the same thing from January to December, not doing anything about it. And if you ask him, no, he say that, look, I'm fearing somebody might steal it. This concept, I have to be very careful how I'm going to push it out. Let me tell you, innovators are creative and scrappy, and they have some level of urgency, and that requires leadership. You need to be a lead. You need to lead transformation for you to gain scale and even to change the ecosystem that we are currently working on. Above all is working in partnerships, and partnerships are what are going to gain you three important things. Partnerships will give you new markets. Partnership will give you new customers. Partnership will give you funds. Now, the worst thing is that most of the time, we only go for the fund and either say, okay, let me try and get the customer. But you forget that what is the most strategic partnership that we need to create, or what partnerships should we develop as InsurTechs? So once you are properly working on partnership, it will open those three avenues. And the thing that happens to your organization is scale. I want to stop at that and maybe get two or three questions from the team, or maybe comments, because I see it's already 18:59. So let's get some reactions or questions before we call it a day. That silence. Okay, let me stop sharing. I want to see your faces. I don't know why we don't usually put our videos.
Elias, I have a question for you.
Yes.
You've traveled around the world. You've interacted with a lot of insurance companies, insurtechs. What did you see is the one thing missing in Kenya from all your experience and all your travels?
Okay,
Maybe.
you know, the funny thing, if you talk about Africa, it seems we were born by the same mother when it comes to the way we look at issues risk, right?
Mhm.
The only difference in South Africa, I would mention that, because for instance, in South Africa, the key thing is that, look, if I die, I want to, my funeral has to be in a particular way. I don't want people to take me the way they bury any other person. So the only thing is that, look, my funeral, they have to have a lot of meat. They'll have to eat. It's the way Luo funerals are. Yeah? It becomes like it's better than even a wedding ceremony. But somebody is dead, yeah, like literally dead. So the thing is that's the only demarcation whereby you get that these people are so concerned that if I die today, how will my funeral be tomorrow? That is not in Kenya. Like if I die today, these people will have to dispose my body. They'll have to think about how they are going to dispose it. And the second thing is they will not have meals on my funeral. The other villagers will talk about them badly, but I'll be long dead. I'll not know whether these people thought about it different or something like that. So in Africa, we have, particularly on the other side of the sub-Saharan Africa, is more, we have this, what we talked about, the coping mechanisms that we need to rethink about. And the rethinking is, okay, can we formalize them, right? Can we do something differently around it? I wouldn't say that the policies are so bad in Africa. The only thing is that, look, the way claims are kind of addressed in Africa is a big challenge for people to think about insurance going forward, because the biggest question that goes in someone's mind, will these guys pay, right? So even if you are an insurtech, the key question is that will you pay? And what happens if somebody pays? Can it change the perception, right? Now, if you go, like I had an experience of doing some work in Australia. The number one key thing for an insurance company in Australia is that their number one principle is that we are an insurance company to pay claims. Now, if you look at that, if you look at it in Kenya or in some of the African countries, the number one principle of an insurance company is to collect premiums.
Yeah.
So that is totally different. And maybe right now, most of us, when we are doing all this, in terms of the projections, we might be thinking, okay, fine. If I get 1 million people and I'm collecting 5 pop, you'd say, okay, fine, I'll be getting 5 million per month. And you are happy. The thing is, we've not gone and looked at, okay, how many claims will I be paying? Like, you don't go through the entire value, the entire revenue account of an insurance business. It's only on the top line. That is it, top line. Yeah, so if my top line is 5 million Kenya shillings, you get that money, you don't invest it on behalf of the people that you have insured, you start misusing it. At the end of the day, you are not able to pay claims. So that is the biggest thing. Our orientation and our focus is highly on what comes, but not what goes out. Our orientation is on how the other people will take care of my risk if I'm long gone, if I have problems, and not myself, which is totally different from and maybe what I would say is that there's a lot of potential, because look, if we could do it right, and ideally all of you guys can do it right, by basically asking yourself, what are these realities that we need to solve within the market space, and kind of know, out of this particular solution, I'm going into a completely new market. The only thing is that even insurtechs are competing with the same market space. You have a product, but it's competing with the likes of who's and who's. Do you think that you guys are going to basically remove them out of that? They've mastered that game. So if your innovation is basically doing the same things that the incumbents are doing, we cannot push them out of their market. We have to create our new markets, and that is the way we'll be able to even rescue the guys that are already with these particular incumbents and are not getting the right services. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Thanks.
Hey, Elias, hi.
Hi.
I just wanted to ask if you have any ideas on how insurtechs can disrupt the middle. You confessed that there's very little disruption going on, and as the lecture was going on, I was really trying to figure out then how this can be done. And just some ideas for someone who's in the health insurance space, like myself or any of the other people who are in this cohort, can disrupt that middle.
Yeah, so I hope that I'm going to get some I would say consultancy fees from Marianne and the rest of teams in Telastic, because this is now consultancy. Let me sit in a good way, because I know money is coming my way. Anyway, now when it comes to the middle office, and we've talked about the health sector. Now, think about this. If today somebody gets sick and he goes to, say, Aga Khan, the first thing that you're told to do is you need to get a claim form, fill that claim form. You start going around with that claim form. That particular claim form will be taken to the insurance company. He will be able to determine, okay, these are the medications that were given. Then from there, there'll be a lot of to and fro for payment. So just imagine how many people are basically working on that particular process. And that's why I talked about operations in the middle office. There are quite a number of guys just to try and ensure that if one guy gets sick, he has to get all these things, and he has to be to ensure that all that particular process matters. So there's a lot of overhead costs. You want to provide health cover for, say, a number of people, and you don't want these guys to go through that entire process, right? So the key thing is that one thing that the hospitals tend to charge insurance higher when somebody says that I have a medical card compared to somebody that goes and says that I'll pay in cash is because of the time taken to pay for that claim. So basically, it makes medical much more expensive because of that delay of payment. And two, the processes that are going to involve to verify that particular payment. That is a pain point, both to the hospital, is a pain point to the person that is sick, to the insured, because it's going to increase cost. At the same time, is a pain point to the insurance company because it has to employ a number of people to be looking at those forms. I know each and every company that is offering medical business have people that work even over the weekend. And we are saying, okay, we are innovators. Yeah. You know that very well. That if you are the big companies have people that work over the weekend to just settle the claims.
True. In fact, I've worked somewhere where it was a 24-hour operation. So guys leave at 5. There's another group that's coming to work until morning on claims.
Yeah. And that's still, it's happening. And we have BimaLab. Okay, fine. Let's continue. Now, and I did talk about the middle office. That is in the middle office, whereby some people have to work for 24 hours. Assume that you wanted to disrupt that particular process. And this is the thing. You get into contract with hospitals, you buy that risk away from the insurance company, whereby you say, Going forward, we don't want you to fill the claims form. When somebody comes to the hospital, we want to take all your people that are covered under your product as cash patients. So immediately your app pays for that particular medical cost. Then you get a margin. So you are coming in as a claim settling agent, because you've kind of now disrupted the entire value chain, whereby there was a claim form that was supposed to be filled, there are these interactions that were supposed to go on, and say that if all your clients that are going to any hospital with our card, they just need to use the mobile phone, and we are going to settle that claim as if it was cash. Then you are going to reimburse to us with a margin for that service that we are offering you. That changes the ball game altogether. That one, you've disrupted the middle office for operations by just an app for paying claims and assuming all claims, that if they use that app, all claims turn from being, you basically tell the customer there is no need of filling the claim form. The insured, they will be so happy. Like, I'm not filling the claim form. I'll just go with my phone. It has a code, it has a token, and basically out of the tests, that particular token pays for all the payments. Then at the back end, you get that the insurance company has to reimburse. You will solve the challenge for the insurance company. You will solve the challenge for the medical, the hospital, because the hospital will not need to wait for cash. The insurance company will not need to employ people working in 24 hours in an insurance company. At the same time, the customer will not have to go through all those inconveniences that, in fact, you filled the wrong form. You needed to have filled this, and this guy is having a headache, and everything. So there are many ways we could do that, but yeah, that's just one example. But definitely, John Paul, we could talk about that and see which other ways I would be able to provide some neat and big what you could do. There's a hand raised.
Thanks for that. That's definitely got me thinking. Thank you.
Yeah,
this is
proceed.
I'm the one who was raised my hand. Actually, I wanted to agree with you. I've had the privilege of working with one of the regional biggest underwriters, and also a multinational underwriter. And I think what insurgents can look for is ways to be friends with these companies. Most of us, like you said, we are very much bottom line oriented. Unlike Australia, which you said correctly, they are more claims oriented. So where insurgents can play well is, for example, basing my argument on the example that you've given. How do we come in and sort of create an element of efficiency, reduce fraud, and also the cost of claims? And I think with this kind of thinking, we are likely to turn around some of these challenges that are existing actively for these companies, the big insurance companies. Yeah, so basically the lowest hanging fruits for insurgents lie around process improvement.
Great, thanks for that comment. Guys, I think we need to leave the room. I think the owner of the room is telling us that, look, we only paid for 2 hours. Now we are 2 hours, 13 minutes. So mine is just to say thank you guys very much. I'm still open to get questions. My colleague Zila is still on the line. If you have any question, please, you can send us an email. You can drop, we'll be able to share emails on the chat. And yeah, you can reach out, but ours is just to thank you for the time that you've taken to join this call. And we are grateful that definitely we are going to create that change that is necessary to transform the insurance industry, not only in Kenya, but also in Africa. Because if we could do it here, then we can basically make sure that we make Africa more resilient. I'll pass it back to either Miriano or Emma
Yeah, Emma is not online. I think we can just close it, yes.
So how do we close? It's just that we say it's done and everyone leaves. Or...
No, we are done. We're done.
Okay, maybe Zila, is there something that you wanted to mention? Zila?
No, just thanking everyone who's joined the call today. And thanks, Elias, for that industry experience.